Dangerous storms are coming to the United States over the next several days, and they will produce severe weather in the form of damaging winds, large to very large hail, and tornadoes, in addition to locally heavy and torrential rainfall, which may lead to flooding. In addition, we're looking at a heat wave building back across the United States as we go into early July, including your July 4th holiday, and the tropical weather update at the end of the video. If you are here and you are not subscribed, make sure to subscribe to the channel. We do daily weather breakdowns here on the channel. Like the video, give it a thumbs up, and of course, share it with a friend, family member on social media. If you have any comments, questions, concerns, jot that down in the comment section down below this video. We have a slight risk of severe weather where scattered severe thunderstorms are possible from the UP of Michigan down through Wisconsin, southeast Minnesota down here into Iowa, northern Missouri, and then that fishtails westward through northern Kansas, and then back into the Front Range and High Plains vicinity of northeast Colorado, the panhandle of Nebraska, and southeastern portions of Wyoming. So we're going to be keeping an eye on that. In the dark green is isolated severe weather where a marginal risk exists here from the Great Lakes back into parts of the Central Plains and the Front Range. Also a marginal risk over here in Virginia, Maryland, Delaware, and southern Jersey as we go into this afternoon and the evening. Primary threats are going to be for damaging wind gusts up to 70 miles per hour, especially where you see the yellow. In the brown, it is still possible, but most likely they're in the yellow. And then we have a lower threat for hail. The hail threat is highest across the High Plains there near Denver, up towards Cheyenne, Wyoming, into the panhandle of Nebraska. Hail threat is a little bit lower across the upper Midwest, just due to the fact that we have a lot of surface heat, a narrow area of warm air aloft that is preventing hail growth up there across the UP of Michigan, Wisconsin, Minnesota, Iowa, and those areas, and that will prevent the hail from getting out of hand in those areas. And then looking at the tornado threat, very low. It's unlikely you'll see a tornado anywhere in the United States today, but it is less than 2%, so we can't rule it out, but generally a very low threat. A lot of storm energy out there today, 2,000 to 3,000 joules per kilogram across portions of the Midwest into the Central Plain. That will support isolated to scattered severe thunderstorms this afternoon. We have some showers and storms ongoing across the mid-Missouri Valley here as we, into the St. Louis area, Jefferson City, Springfield, Missouri, up toward Kansas City, Missouri, here at noon. As we go into the mid-afternoon hours, we're going to watch a couple different areas of storm development. One from Wisconsin down here into central Iowa, so Des Moines, up there toward Waterloo, into the La Crosse area and the Wisconsin Dells vicinity. And then we have another area from Cheyenne, Wyoming, down toward Denver and the panhandle of Nebraska as well. By about 2-3 o'clock this afternoon, that could see some supercell thunderstorms. Those are your individual storms that produce those damaging wind gusts to 70 miles an hour. Those hailstones could be up to quarter, even $half size at times, and a very small but very unlikely still tornado risk. And then as we go into the evening hours, that cluster from the High Plains will congeal into a line of storms as they cross through central Nebraska, getting into western Kansas by the time we get towards midnight. And then the wee hours of the morning on Monday, we could see that taking a run at the Kansas City area, Omaha, and down there towards Topeka and Wichita as we go into Monday morning. These storms are going to be very efficient at producing heavy rainfall and torrential downpours. Could be seeing areas that see, little to no rain if you don't get a storm. And then, of course, if you get under one of the heaviest thunderstorm clusters, that's where we could be talking about some flash flooding in localized areas with rainfall amounts of 2 to 4 inches there from southern and southeast Nebraska through the Kansas City metro and then down there into central Missouri. Let's look here at the marginal risk of severe weather starting off the work week there in the last day of June on Monday, June 30th. Isolated severe storms will be possible. Big cities like Chicago, Milwaukee, and Madison, down to St. Louis, there into Carbondale, Indianapolis, Detroit, over there toward Toledo, Dayton, and Cincinnati, Louisville, and then stretching over there into Pittsburgh, Washington, D.C., and Roanoke. We're going to be keeping an eye on that as we go into tomorrow. Damaging straight line winds up to 60 miles per hour will be the primary threat, followed by the chance for hail. Hail is actually greatest there in central Wisconsin. That could be up to quarter size tomorrow afternoon and evening. And then thankfully, again, the tornado risk, much like today, is less than 2% across the entire United States. The main focus is here into the Ohio and Tennessee River Valley. Tomorrow morning at 7 a.m., we're going to be watching a cluster of showers and storms exiting from the plains into the Midwest here. So southern Iowa, Into parts of Missouri and eastern Kansas, could start to see some heavier downpours, some frequent cloud to ground lightning for your workday tomorrow. That will weaken as it approaches the Mississippi River mid to late morning toward the noon hour. And then we're going to see new development where we have those outflow boundaries. It's kind of a boundary of differential heating, and that's where we have the trigger mechanism for those storms to develop as we go later on into the afternoon after 3 o'clock. Going into the dinner time frame and extending into the mid and late evening hours. So again, big cities like Milwaukee, Madison, Chicago, St. Louis, Indianapolis, Detroit, Dayton, all the way down into the Louisville, Cincinnati area, Pittsburgh. You're all in play for severe weather as we go into Monday evening. Locally heavy downpours will be possible with these storms as well. Make no mistake about it. There will be areas that will see no rain, and there will be areas that see 1.5 inches of rain. It's just how it is this time of year with scattered thunderstorm development. So consider yourself lucky, especially if you're in a dry area that sees a heavy downpour on your Monday. Going into Tuesday, starting off July 1st with a marginal risk, isolated severe storms for the I-95 corridor into the mid-Atlantic. Big cities, Boston, New York City, Providence, all the way back down into Trenton, Philly, Baltimore, Washington, D.C., Roanoke, and Richmond. Into the Raleigh area as we go into the day on Tuesday. That will stretch up to the north toward Concord, New Hampshire, into Albany, and even into Maine as well. And that's for isolated severe thunderstorms. Tuesday morning could have some showers and storms up there in upstate New York into Vermont, New Hampshire. A couple clusters down here in the southeast like Georgia and Alabama. And then as we go into the midday hours, we're going to watch some scattered thunderstorm development. And just like today and on Monday, this will not be for everybody. So there will be areas that get skipped out. There will other be areas that see 1, 2, 3 storms on the same day. And that could produce some locally heavy rainfall. Rainfall amounts generally, again, along the I-95 corridor, the mid-Atlantic coast, could be upwards to 3 inches if you get under a couple rounds of those heavier thunderstorms through the day on Tuesday. Let's look at our upper air pattern, our jet stream, as we go into the early part of July. And notice we got another big disturbance moving through the southern Canadian prairies, Manitoba and Ontario as we go into Wednesday, July 2nd. That will move from northwest to southeast through the upper Great Lakes region as we go from Wednesday the 2nd into Thursday the 3rd. And then going into the 4th of July, we got a big high pressure building across the Mississippi Valley here. That could prevent a lot of thunderstorms from forming. But here we go from the Pacific Northwest into the Northern Plains. Got another disturbance coming in on the July 4th and July 5th with a cold front. That could bring some more active storms. Putting this here into simplistic terms, we're going to be seeing some isolated thunderstorms across the southeast on Wednesday, July 2nd. Very quiet day across the United States as far as severe weather is concerned on Wednesday, so we get to breathe a sigh of relief. Thursday, a pretty quiet day as well. Can't rule out a couple stronger storms in the northeast or down here in the Rockies. And then as we go into July 4th, on Friday, a lot of those storms will be across the Dakotas, Nebraska, down into Kansas, and up into Minnesota. Dry for much of the Midwest, especially for Missouri, Illinois, through portions of the Ohio Valley on July 4th. And then going into July 5th, a big complex of storms with some widespread damaging wind potential, hail, isolated tornadoes, and you guessed it, more heavy rain as we go into Saturday, July 5th and Sunday, July 6th next weekend with a cold front, and that will be something we'll be keeping an eye on in the medium and long-term forecast. Let's look here at our ridge of high pressure across the south central U.S. today. It is very hot. Phoenix, over there to Albuquerque, into Amarillo, Dallas, all the way up to Oklahoma City and Little Rock. Very hot underneath the ridge of high pressure. It is a flatter ridge, and it's going to start to amplify, which means it's going to push northward a little bit as we go into the middle of the week. And then by the time we get to the 4th of July holiday, we're really going to see the heat building for the Mississippi Valley with that ridge of high pressure there across that region. So here we go for highs this afternoon. Here you go. We got 90s, upper 90s that will be from Kansas southward into Oklahoma and into Texas. Nearing record highs in Phoenix this afternoon at 114, 120 in Death Valley at times. And then looking at a record high temperature of 116 degrees in Phoenix, Arizona as we go into Monday, June 30th. 90s across the lower Mississippi Valley into the southeast. And then as we go into Tuesday, again, Phoenix, 113, 110 there in Vegas. And then that will just continue as we go into the late of the week. All that heat that's in Phoenix and Vegas and Sacramento back there into the desert Southwest will spread east by July 4th in areas like Chicago, Des Moines, Omaha, down into Kansas City, Oklahoma City, Little Rock, St. Louis. Those areas will be getting into the 90s with your heat index values going over 100 degrees by July 4th. So make sure to hydrate out there, especially for any July 4th festivities. And then that will continue into July 5th on Saturday with more of the 90s spreading into the east. Again, with the warmer temperatures during the day, it's going to be hard pressed to see a lot of relief there at night. Now, we do have some cooler nights ahead where you could crack the windows open with 50s for lows into the northern plains, upper Midwest, 60s and 70s in the Ohio Valley and Northeast. And then here comes the warmer nights. They come roaring back by July 4th, the morning of. You can see temperatures in the low 70s, and then even warmer, mid 70s for lows by Saturday, July 5th morning there across a lot of the upper Midwest, Great Lakes, Ohio Valley, and just the eastern U.S. in general. Let's look at the fire weather outlook for today, and elevated across southwestern and southern Wyoming. So make sure if you have any controlled burns out there or any campfires that you are mindful of. If you get a fire out of hand, it can get out of hand very quickly. So make sure that you are mindful of that. Have water handy to put those fires out. Let's look here at your tropical weather update. Tropical storm Flossie has developed in the East Pacific just south of the Mexico coast. This system is expected to become a hurricane as soon as tomorrow evening. That would be a Category 1, possibly becoming a Category 2 Tuesday morning before waning in intensity as it pushes closer to the Baja of California. Tropical storm watches have already been posted for the west coast there of Mexico, as those tropical storm force winds will be possible there along the coast, and the hurricane force winds will be a little bit further off of the coast. But rip current risks, rough surf, that's definitely a possibility here with this close vicinity of a system. So here's Flossie. As we go into tomorrow, it's going to push closer to the coast there. Tropical storm force activity with some winds out there, some rough surf and rip currents. And then as we go into the middle of the week, that pushes up toward the Baja, weakening into a tropical storm again, and then eventually a tropical depression, and then ultimately fading out after the 4th of July holiday. Now, we are looking here at the Atlantic Basin as what has been a quiet season so far. We've only had one named storm. Well, we got a second named storm now. Tropical storm Barry is formed just near the Yucatan Peninsula in the southwestern Gulf. That is going to be short-lived in the Gulf because it's going to be moving westward over the next 24 hours into eastern Mexico. We also have a 20 to 30% chance of development over the Florida Peninsula in the western Atlantic here for development over the next few days. And you can see with Barry, there is a tropical storm right now, 40-mile-per-hour winds moving northwest at 6 miles per hour. It's going to be crashing into the east coast of Mexico. So not only would you have to deal with Flossie in the East Pacific and the west coast of Mexico, you got to deal with Barry and the east coast of Mexico, bringing, again, more rough surf, rip current risks, some flooding. We already have tropical storm warnings up for the east coast of Mexico down there. So that is what we're keeping an eye on. So let's look at that. There goes Barry over the next 24 hours, again, bringing some heavy rainfall. We are watching a little bit of a boundary down here across portions of Florida. That could spark maybe a tropical depression as we go into July 1st or 2nd. Otherwise, we're just going to see some tropical rain, some heavier downpours for Florida, southern Georgia, the Carolinas perhaps, as we get closer to the 4th of July holiday. Well, thank you all for watching. I definitely appreciate it. If you are here, subscribe to the channel if you're not already. Like the video, give it a thumbs up. Share it with a friend, family member, and on social media. I definitely appreciate everybody's support and everything on the channel. Comment any questions, concerns you have down below. We're 24/7 to answer any and all questions you have, day, night. We got you covered. So thank you all for watching. Have a wonderful rest of your Sunday out there.